Good morning, everybody. Let us continue with a panel dedicated to redefining agriculture. So what it is that we mean by redefining agriculture, it's a pretty old activity ranging back to the Stone Age, I would say. But what we understand today is that agriculture needs to be redefined to feed the growing world's population. By 2050, we need to produce approximately, almost double of the amount of food we produce today, having the same soils, same conditions, and actually with the climate change, which is impeding on the agricultural production. So this means using new technologies, something that we call agri-tech today. And this is a very broad term. It ranges from AI to blockchain, from different sensing and nanotechnologies to new advances in chemical and biological sciences. So I'm very glad to be joined by my panelists today, who will try to help us see how this inclusive and very broad transformation must take place rather than focusing on individual innovations. So it is my great pleasure to welcome, let me start from the ladies first, we're kind of surrounding the guys here. So to welcome Ivanka Stojnic. Ivanka has over 10 years of rich experience in the field of ESG and sustainable development. Since 2021, she has been in charge of managing sustainability at Nestlé for Southeast Europe. And furthermore, Ivanka is leading projects focused on regenerative agriculture. That is a very new term and very important one, which I hope you will remember after today's panel. And the goal of this project is to source 50% of Nestlé's key raw materials from regenerative agriculture by 2030. So quite close, very ambitious goal. Second, joining us is Johannes Heinlein. He's a co-founder and executive chairman of Fokipa, entrepreneur and financial professional. And here he's in the capacity of co-founder and executive chairman of Fokipa, a global agtech company pioneering novel herbicide formulations that support regenerative agriculture and the transition away from traditional harmful chemicals used in agriculture. Formerly, Johannes was serving as CEO until 2024, and he led company's expansion across key markets, including Germany, France, UK, USA, Canada, and New Zealand, and we hope to hear something about the scale-up experiences as well. Last but not least, our mystery man, as you can see in the photo, is Luka Ivanovic, an amazing professional, graduated in political economy and French literature at UC Berkeley, but then discovered that his true love is agriculture. And he worked on pilot small-scale vegetable organic farms in Australia and renowned permaculture research institute, Ridgedale Permaculture in Sweden. Luka has been at Ray & Jules, and he's the ambassador over the last 3 years for the Balkan region. So let's welcome our panelists here today. So let me start with you, Ivanka. As the world's largest food and beverage company, Nestlé is also a true pioneer in regenerative agriculture in this region. So please tell us, how do you tackle the growing challenges that the agricultural sector is facing today globally and here in the Balkans, and how do you integrate agtech solutions?
Thank you, Vesna. Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to be invited here to speak about rethinking agriculture. And exactly like you said, I think you mentioned even informations about increasing demand for the food on one side. We have increasing of the population, and then on the other side we have more and more visible degradation of the soil, soil erosion, losing of the soil, let's say soil health, and obviously the climate changes, which are very obvious. So how to balance those two? Where to find solution? So I do believe that it's for everyone, especially for the food business, for the food system, it is very clear that food system is broken. We cannot sustain, we cannot keep producing the food as we used to do so far. So this is, I do believe, up to now, very much clear for us. This is how we as a Nestlé, the largest food and beverage company in the world, have decided to be part, and not only to be part, but to lead the transformation of the food system in our chain. As we realized, as I said, the way how we did it in the past is not good and it's not sustainable. This is how we came to regenerative agriculture as approach, which we are highly, let's say, highly embedded in our strategy. So this is something that I dare to say we count on as our one of the biggest bet when it comes to climate neutrality. We have a mission to be net zero by 2050, but not only because of greenhouse gas emission reduction, but also because of sustainability of food production on the long run. So with this approach we are taking globally, but I'm also proud to say that in our region, in Serbia specifically, we are running the project on around 6,000 hectares with 14 producers of vegetables, soy, sunflower oil, and that we have invested just in the last 5 years around 2 million of Swiss francs financially supporting our farmers, but also technically with the knowledge, which is the most important actually part of this approach.
Yes, I like the fact that you mentioned knowledge at the very beginning, because usually when you talk about farming and farming practices at the Balkans, one thing you would expect that farmers need the most is money. But this was not your experience, right?
Exactly. I think that money, actually even investments can be ruined if there is no education. Exactly, regenerative agriculture is a great example. Some farmers are a bit scared about this approach because they are skeptic. They're afraid that they will lose the yields. But in order not to lose the yields, in order to regenerate the soil, you need to have exactly the right competence, the right knowledge, and then the right resources in terms of financials to be able to execute it. So that it has to be both.
Exactly, thank you very much. Turning to Luca, now please tell us first what it is that Ray Charles does and why are you on this panel of agriculture, what is your contribution to the field? But then also I would like to expand this question because from what I know, your approach goes beyond technology. It includes fair pricing, local sourcing, circular packaging. So it is not only about agricultural production, it is about social sustainability and environmental sustainability. So please tell us a bit more about that as well.
Thank you everyone for coming to our panel, and I would like to thank the host for inviting us this year. Yes, we at Ray and Jules, we approach regenerative, we have this regenerative approach from the beginning. The way we work with farmers is very transparent. So instead of seeking for farmers who are necessarily certified or licensed that they produce organic coffee, we like to make the visit ourselves, evaluate the on-field work, and decide ourselves if it's something which fits to our standards. And our standards are very high in the sense that we are technology geeks. So we invented this technology to make a product such as coffee, which is used by most people on a daily basis, in a reinvented way, which has zero CO2 impact and which carries this big story behind of regenerative farming plantations, organic production, and less impactful ways of sourcing the raw materials. So I would say that we try to connect the producer with the client, with the customer, and tell their story. And as roasters, as middlemen in this story, we don't like to make a bad impact, but actually glorify it and make it something special. That's what makes Ray and Jules stand out in the market, is this solar way of roasting, because no one is doing it yet commercially, and we are the pioneers of the technology. So we really try to communicate it both with our growers and with consumers.
Excellent. And we will go back to what it is that you do in more detail. But first, let me turn to Johannes. So please tell us first, how does Okipa address this challenge that agriculture is facing today? So you are innovative in chemical, it's chemical innovations basically. And then also please expand your view in the future. We've heard a lot about AI, about blockchain, IoT, all the new digital technologies. So how do you see that AI, for instance, will support chemical innovations in the future? And also, will it help scale up?
Yeah. First of all, wonderful to be here. So we are the tool, hopefully Nestle is going to use in the future with your farming community, and you guys as well. So we're part of the chemical world, but we're the non-toxic side of things. We are a discovery of a food-grade molecule which works as a herbicide but doesn't leave any traces. So your coffee won't be affected, the tomatoes won't be affected, etc. So we're kind of the reverse thing to the AI revolution. Everybody talks about the AI revolution to find a molecule which can be used. We have found a molecule which hopefully AI helps us to develop further and to become even more effective. And to put the secret out of the bag is, so we use that molecule which has herbicidal effects. We discovered that, or not we, it's like my co-founder, who is a scientist in New Zealand, discovered it 25 years ago. Woke up one day when the population went against glyphosate, against diquat, and against all these kind of nasty chemicals, and remembered that. And then we took it to the science field of really seeing, it wasn't a couple of us seeing effects, but is it scientifically proven, and how can we get that better and get it more effective? And I think on that passage to become more effective, I think that's where AI might be able to play a role in.
Well, thank you for highlighting the role of science in today's society when it's all about startups and unicorns and quickly earning your first million or first 100 of million. One often forgets that behind every innovation there is at least 10 or even 15 or 20 years of research. So in order to be able to be today here with this amazing innovation, there was a guy sitting in his office 20 years ago. But please clarify a little bit, because we talk about regenerative agriculture. So how does your product fit into this framework?
For the regenerative agriculture, it's the perfect tool for regenerative agriculture because it gets rid of a problem above ground. It creates a food source for the bacteria in the soil, and it doesn't penetrate the base water. So we're kind of on a triple layer, being a positive impact, and we're doing exactly what the farming community used to do in the past by applying chemicals. On one way to get rid of certain things, on the other hand is like put fertilizers on, is like to increase the growth. So I think it's a kind of the next iteration of a normal development of product development.
Amazing, thank you. So in this panel, we are tackling actually the agricultural process from farm to fork, so from the very production through processing and then through logistics to reaching the end consumer. Now going to the processing. Luca, as you mentioned, Ray and Charles has this solar roasting of coffee beans, which is, if I'm not wrong, 3 times more energy efficient than conventional processes. So that's a big step up. But it's not only about coffee. Entire food processing industry is quite energy inefficient. It's a big consumer of energy. So do you see your results spreading into some other food manufacturing processes?
Just like you mentioned, before Ray and Jules, for last 2 decades, stands a CEE company, which stands for Creative, Economical and Environmental. So for a solution to come up, it has to be creative, it has to be environmental and economical to be implemented. And a similar roaster to the one that we use at Ray and Jules has been used before in construction, in big industry as a good tool to improve efficiency. And that's how the process started. And the founders were looking for ways to reach to end customers with their fabulous story about how technology and innovations in technology and optimizing these processes can make a big turnaround in our everyday lives. So they decided coffee would be a good way to start. And they like to draw this parallel between the first car and the first coffee machine, 1800s. Was both on fossil fuels, on charcoal running. Today we have a fully electric car, and still the way that we roast coffee is absolutely the same like it was with the first machine. The concept is the same. So it's the same inefficiencies, same heavy industry approach, which at Ray and Jules we are trying to reinvent. So I wouldn't like to spill some stories which I'm not certain about, but definitely Ray and Jules is seeking for ways to spread the influence and to kind of make a brand which sits as a big breakfast brand in a way that we roast granola using solar energy. We can make toast with solar energy. So we try to make a pellet for a healthy breakfast using solar energy. So instead of just sticking with coffee, we are trying to grow and expand, and this is all based on the needs, and still with the first thing in mind, educating our clients, our consumers, and leading by this example.
So when you say educating your clients and consumers, what do you mean by that?
We try to share multi-layer stories with our clients. So, for example, with every cup of Ray & Jules coffee that they drink, they are saving, with every kilo of Ray & Jules coffee that they drink, they are saving 1.5 cubic meters of CO2 emissions, which would normally happen in a regular production. So we try to spread this message in different ways. Another approach is with our growers. We have a set of growers whom we can get our needs for a year, but then we have another handful of growers whom we work with just with the ambition to share their story, to speak to our clients about different coffees from that they have never tried before. And in this sense, we support some female cooperatives, some places where there are really fair and interesting working conditions, because coffee business is a family business. And whichever way you go about to support it, there are always some good side effects and some not so nice. So we try to be very transparent with our customers, and that's how we try to bridge this gap.
Okay, thank you, excellent. So we heard your experience in spreading your technology across different application areas, so to say, or different crops. And let's now talk about geographical spread. So Johannes was very successful in upscaling his business, so Okipa, through a number of countries and continents. So please tell us about your experience in that regard.
I mean, for us, it was a necessity, because it was the same problems happen in New Zealand as in Canada, as in the EU, as in England. And we wanted to make sure that we create something which works unilaterally everywhere the same. And that's what science taught us. And then we looked at different crop functionalities. And then we looked into, what's the right partnership. And also, we're running in food security, and we're running against regulatory environments. And the regulatory environment is even hardened by the lobby of the large producers, because they're defending their markets. So de-risking it for the politician, making them aware, is like getting good data which is commercially driven. I mean, nobody is going to help you because you're a nice guy. It's like everybody has a commercial interest in it. And we went very specifically on certain crops which we felt were easier to showcase, and found commercial partners. And I think Nestle is super active in many ways, looking for good alternatives. We found a very good commercial partner in the cotton fields with Cargill, because for them they're the world's largest cotton dealer, cotton trader, and for them it's commercially viable. And they've been super supportive, and we're on the right trajectory. And then comes the regulatory side, is like the politician who's afraid of touching anything new, which he doesn't know. So again, how do you create that need for him? And it's the consumer. And I think it's like in your education, the consumer wants something better, wants to encourage. It's like whether it'll be, it's like the CO2 side, or whether it's the better taste, or whether it's the cheaper pricing or something. It's a driving force. And until you show the consumer doesn't know.
Yes, so what we know is that behind any successful idea or successful company, basically a whole quadruple helix needs to be involved. So the scientific community, which you did tick the box, society, consumers, startups, investors, but also governments. And that brings us to the question of regulation and regulatory framework. So what are your experiences in that area?
I mean, it's a very rigid system. It's a lengthy system, and it scares investors away because regulatory sides are unpredictable and they take time. And hence our approach to it is like we're dealing with the Americans, and we're dealing with the Europeans, who are kind of a sluggish, big machinery. But at the same time, we're poking into countries where we believe they could be swifter, because they see it, again, an opportunity for them to be, first in class. And, the UK government is fairly receptive. The Mexican government is fairly receptive. And it's wonderful to see the spirit here at this conference, because I see the Montenegro and the Serbian environment could be a total front runner of it. And because of the simplicity we are offering, and I didn't say that earlier, but it's a food commodity. So it's something low price, effective, etc. It might be a great opportunity to a country such as the Balkan countries to take this into their hands and run with it and experience with it. It's not a total carte blanche, but to give an opportunity that says, okay, we really believe in that, and it makes a change. And God knows where we are in 20 years' time. Probably, hopefully, the next Okipo iteration comes with somebody else bringing the next example. But I think it's very timely at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. And speaking about regulation and definitions, Ivanka, what would be the definition of regenerative agriculture? And since I know that this is a very tough question, then please give us some examples from the field, from the real practices of Serbian farmers, what it is that you provide them with, what it is that they are doing, how are you making impact?
Yes, Vesna, exactly like you said, $1 million question about the definition. But from one side, as it may be sometimes frustrated, there is still no global definition and global maybe certification around the topic of regenerative agriculture. From another side, there are the benefits of that, is that it can be still looked at a holistic approach, not very strict, like maybe it is organic. So we still give a lot of, room for the farmers to adjust the practices to their own needs. And this is why I really like this approach. Obviously, we do have a framework in which we work when we talk about regenerative agriculture. But in that framework, farmers really has the freedom to choose. You can imagine it like a basket of practices which are good for the soil, which are good for the plant, for the farmer. And then farmer is able to pick up those which suits to his farm the best. So this is why I think this can be scaled up. First of all, from our experience, as you asked, what is making the best effect? Probably there are many practices which are recovering the soil health, such as cover crops, such as usage of the organic fertilizers, or how we call it in our region, manure. It's not something inventive. It's not something new. We used to do it in the past a lot, but there is on another side a lot of precision agriculture tools like GPSs, which are really showing the farmers where to apply, how to apply, then different, devices such as a meteor station, but even fully automotive robot on the farm who is doing all, by himself without people around it, except the guy who is monitoring the work of the robot on his phone. So we are kind of balancing the practices, the old traditional practices, which we know from the past they are giving good results for the soil regeneration, but we are connecting them with some advanced technologies with the help of AI, with the help of monitoring sensors, where we can really define where to spray and how much. For example, the drones, just with the drones, which are not anymore something so much new, we managed to reduce by 15% the usage of pesticides and 20% of the herbicides in the last few years, only with this tool.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to just underline one thing that you said, and this might be a beautiful takeaway for the audience. You said soil regeneration. So what I would like to simplify for the audience is that we always brag how soil in Vojvodina is super fertile, and this is our biggest resource. What we do not brag about is that it's only a very thin layer. And once you destroy this, and we're doing that really quickly, we are left with nothing. So it's a natural resource that is very quickly being depleted, and that's why soil regeneration is a super important topic. So unless we do this, we will be left with nothing. But in that sense, Ivanka, how do you influence the next generation of farmers? Because farmers are a very tough target group. They cannot afford to, test new things in one season and then be left with nothing. So how do you think that these ideas should be promoted to the next generation of farmers?
One smart guy once told me, farmers listen to farmers. Then I learned my lesson, you know, instead
We talked to the same smart guy then.
yeah, then for sure. So then I gave up on, you know, giving the lectures to the farmers. So what we did just is we found the first believer who was kind of open-minded to try to test, and then basically in a very simple way, we took other farmers to his farm and showing year by year the progress. And you cannot believe there is so much today, trainings, education, but this is giving the most results, I would say. Even I had an experience. It can go in opposite way as well. You know, and it's very simple in agriculture. If some practice doesn't work, nobody in that area or village will ever try it, at least in the next 5-10 years. So here we comes again to the beginning of our story. It has to be really a lot of knowledge, a lot of education, right knowledge, right informations, and support for the farmers. I would say that from my experience in the region, the younger generation are even more, open to try those things. While when I met their parents, they are very skeptic around these practices. Will it decrease the yields? How it will? But even as I said, after the first year, or if they see it on the neighbor's side, they are kind of believing it. The another thing I would like to clarify, which we all think, you know, that we need to educate farmers about soil degradation. No, we don't. They really know how their soil is damaged. Just by touching the soil, pouring the soil from their hands, they know in which condition, much may be better than us. So it's not that, it's more on the economical part of this story, and this is why Nestlé is part of this. This is why I do believe that others should step in, institutes, founders, different companies, small producers, medium producers, big producers. That's why I'm super excited to have colleagues around the table, because we are coming from such different scales and such different areas, but we need all of us in order for this to strive. So basically, yes, if they see it works, they will continue to do it, but there has to be economical support there through the transition and educational support from different sides.
Thank you. And now let me turn to Johannes, but now I ask you to take off your hat of chemical innovator and put on your hat of a guy with a great experience in financing. So we've heard from Ivanka, and actually we know from the World Economic Forum, we know that there is a low adoption rate of agri-tech with the farmers globally and in the Balkans especially. So could you think of some new financial instruments or business models such as leasing of precision agriculture equipment, etc., that could help promote this new technology and put them into practice quickly?
And I think the farming community is always under financial pressure, and it's added up by desperation because they don't have a view forward what is coming. I mean, most farmers we talk to, their biggest issue is like, I'd love to buy stuff for the next 5 years, but I have no idea what's happening in 2 years' time. Because things get forbidden, things get changed, regulations change, etc. And that's a real problem for them. So I think ultimately the farmer, well educated, will see the benefit of moving into regenerative agriculture, will need to have a certain financial support on buying machinery, of adapting machinery. I think the banking world sees that more and more, but it's still a high-risk environment for them. And that's where I think governments have to come into it. Particularly, it's food security again at the end of the day. And ultimately, these governments will take certain decisions which are long-term decisions, and listening to the customer, listening to the clients, and listening to how quickly can a farmer really adapt to certain things. They cannot switch it like a light switch.
Thank you for highlighting that. So it's the audience here, I mean, you are pretty much aware. I don't think many of you are agricultural experts, but you are aware of how agriculture is of crucial importance for us. It's the food we eat, it's the water we drink, it's the air we breathe. So basically, everybody has to be very much concerned about redefining agriculture. So we have a couple of more minutes left. So I would ask you all to give your kind of final feedback to the audience on how do you think that this global disruption in agriculture should be made, could be made, is being made. So maybe we start with Luca, go to Johannes, and then end with Ivanka.
Oh, thank you for making it easy.
Yeah.
I think we all bring up some beautiful things, and coming from different backgrounds, different scales. You talk about drones and robots. My experience is on the field without tractor, only by hands, and managing what is manageable for a local community, producing just locally. But I think both missions are very much needed, and the knowledge that comes from both situations is a mutual, it's a shared knowledge. So it's good that now we are speaking about regenerative agriculture, because when I started to make interest in regenerative agriculture, not a lot of people knew what it is, what it meant, what it represents. So I hope it's a bright future, and yeah. It's a story that starts also with consumers who know what they want, and with producers as power figures in the industry who make the right decisions and who communicate the right gateways for people to have a choice. And then I think the government will adjust quickly, because in the end it's the people who choose the government, and if we all share the same goal, then things slowly fall into place.
Thank you.
It's
Johannes?
regenerative, holistic.
Yeah, exactly. Holistic approach is what is needed. I agree with you. Johannes, what would be your...
I think numbers don't lie. So I think, back to your point, science. If there are discoveries, and put science on it quickly, support science, and if it really makes sense, it's a de-risked decision by a government to give an opportunity, and really think big and be gutsy.
Oh, I like this. Science should rule the world. I like that approach.
I mean, it's the way forward. The population has been educated. If you would have spoken 10 years ago to somebody about any chemical work on a field, nobody would have ever heard about it. Nowadays, you speak to some people, and you take glyphosate as a good example. 8 out of 10 people have heard about it, and 4 out of these 8 have read an article and have an opinion about it. 10 years ago, it's nobody would have had that,
Great
including
point.
myself.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Ivanka, your parting words.
Yes, I mean, all what you said is basically what probably I would say. Maybe I can only add on the part of the consumers. Exactly, they need to understand, and they need to choose in order for us as a business to be able to keep investing in this transition. So it's like entire value chain, as you said, from farm to fork. We need transformation at the farm level, but transformation has to happen on entire value chain, including consumers. So we still have a bit of gap between what consumers say and do. So we have a lot of concerned people around sustainability, ESG, but not still that much who are capable to let's say, choose the right products. So we have to transform entire value chain, but consumers as well are very much important in order to be able to keep investing in entire cycle. And yes, I would like once again to underline the importance of the government of the regulation, especially when it comes to smallholders farmers. So yes, we can big ones can convince big one and change some things. Smaller farmer, they look what the big one are doing, what they can apply, they do, but usually it's too expensive for them. So there has to be governmental national support especially for the smallholder farmers to be able to make this transition.
Especially in our region where we have a large number of small farmers. Thank you for mentioning that. Well, it is time now to turn to the audience. My tablet says no questions, but maybe you would like to pose some questions live rather than typing. Yes. Just wait for the mic, please. The mic is coming.
I'd be intrigued to hear from Luca on the technology, the solar roasting technology. Have you tried to sort of commercialize that and sell it to the sort of elites and the large coffee producers?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we are currently working with one of the largest coffee roasters and distributors in the region, who is a fair trade and kind of fits into our picture, but much bigger than us. And we've made a next generation roaster, which has 5 times the capacity of the first one, and we have developed the first recipes as well, which fit to their taste. So I would say we are in a good way to make one of the first steps here in Europe with one of the bigger players. Also in Canada, we are starting and making some baby steps, and well, I would say in Montenegro only baby steps. Everywhere else, it's everything is going quite. It's promising.
Thank you very much. Any more questions, maybe? Yes.
Johannes, I really like your business, Okipa. I think it's really cool, and the story you told me yesterday was even better. But just one question: what call to action do you have for people like us in the audience that can help accelerate the adoption of technology like yours? Because being in the AI and chemical design space, the lead times and the execution times are so long. But we need to get your technology on the ground as soon as possible.
I think it's talking about it. It's talking about it and actually building up that pressure point and supporting, the way the world is at the moment. The farming community cannot do without these tools and only has the chemical tools at the moment. You have the consumers who don't like the residues in their cornflakes or in their coffee. And you have the politicians sitting there, but, both hands bound because they cannot forbid something without having an alternative. So it's really that education that alternatives do exist, and alternatives, there are measurements in the EU, for example, they can give you emergency allowances year by year on a national basis. So a Germany or an Austria can say, it's like, I give you the allowance for a particular product line for the next 4 months to sell it. And I think the selling part is an important one for the farmer, because only if he actually has to put his hand in his pocket, he'll be really critical about it. And without this criticism, our product doesn't get better. And I think so it's that opportunity to talk about that it does exist and eventually get from that small political environment into the larger political environment, to find that politician who sees it as a career opportunity for him or her to bring it up and push it forward. And then on a national level, to have independent countries to take that baton and run with it and become a front runner. Because it's with like these technology or these developments, it's so simple and it's so safe that whoever is going to be the first runner on that will involve everybody else. Even the Americans will have FOMO and will eventually come in.
Thank you very much. I think we are running out of time, so I kindly ask you to reserve your other questions for the break. And let me thank you all. Let me express my wish that you will be our ambassadors from now on. You've heard from small agricultural producers, super large ones, from the innovators and investors, and it is one topic that they all agree on, that we all have to work together, and you as consumers and you as board members, we all need to work together on redefining agriculture for the better world to follow tomorrow. So thank you very much, and let's thank our panelists.